Commissioner Goodfriend,
Here.
Commissioner Nunez,
Here.
Commissioner Weston Baylock. Here. Commissioner Silva Santos. Here. Commissioner Gallagher.
Here. Yeah. The minutes from the last, from the ones that are stated here?
Right here, January 18th.
Okay. But just a motion by Commissioner Silva.
No, just, we need approval for these minutes.
Oh, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 18, 2012 meeting?
Yes.
Motion by Commissioner Goodfriend, seconded by Vice Chair. Are you
Gallagher. No, nothing, no.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner.
Gallagher. It's Steve now, right? Steve is the
Yeah.
Vice Chairman.
Do we need a vote on that?
Still in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You have any new business?
No.
Okay.
Well, the
Well, do you consider this new
Yeah, the
business?
new
Okay.
business is a request from the owners of 801 North Broad Street, East Coast Westminster Towers, who is requesting that the board use its advisory powers to assist them in determining what type of rent they would be able to charge. What they're looking to do is they have 5 two-bedroom apartments, and they have the current market rents listed for them of those apartments on the rent registration statement, in addition to a letter from Karen Harrison Bowers Esquire.
Question. When you say market rents, you mean what they're actually charging?
What they're actually charging right now, I'm sorry, the current rents, I should say. And they're looking for a clarification as to how the new rents for one-bedroom or studio apartments should be set once renovations are completed. So what they're looking to do is turn 5 two-bedroom apartments into either a one-bedroom apartment or a studio apartment. And they're looking for some assistance in determining how they can do that. So you'll have before you the rent registration statement that was filed, which has the rents for the building, and it's actually 2 buildings. There's the apartments at 1341 North Avenue and then 801 North Broad Street. And I guess this is one of those corner buildings where they have 2 addresses, so there's 2 different apartments.
Question, do we need a motion of some sort in the beginning, or can we just start?
It's advisory, so I think you just really need to discuss it and then come to a consensus, because you're not voting on anything, it's not going to be binding on them. It's advisory. And then Ms. Campbell could transmit the board's feelings and their thoughts to the property owner.
Well, I have a question about whether, I guess we could decide whether it should be, or maybe not, but I guess I'm asking. According to what I see in the ordinance, we could, well, of course, they haven't done it yet, so I don't know where that comes into play. But, so maybe it should just be advisory. But where it says, like, we can make determination on applications from landlords for additional rental and adjust base rent, blah, blah, blah.
That's if they have a specific request for something that they've done.
Yeah,
This is an advisory opinion
Okay.
for something that they're considering doing, and they haven't done anything yet.
I have a question. So they can, in this type of apartments, they can terminate the lease?
Well,
Like they say, these are currently...
I did have some discussions with the attorney a little bit,
Okay.
and she was telling me that the apartments are now occupied,
Right.
that at some point, if they become vacant, they would consider,
Right, they say at termination of lease.
yeah, that's,
To the current resident.
once the current resident leaves. They're not
Right.
looking to, remove anybody, but if
They do have a lease, so the lease.
they do have a lease, they're allowed to stay there unless they make some other arrangement with the property owner. Property owner isn't removing them to do this,
Mhm.
or forcibly removing them to do that.
But if the lease ends, then that's it, they're not gonna renew the lease.
Well, if you have a written lease that ends, it can either be extended to the same type of terms in the present lease, or it turns into a month-to-month lease, but you can't remove a tenant without cause.
Not because they can't just say terminating because I
No.
have other ideas for this apartment?
No,
Okay,
no. You're protected under the state law.
okay.
Do you know why it's just these, 5 apartments?
They're probably the biggest.
Well, there's two, they're all in a vertical line.
I think
Apartments, and there are
they're
two
almost a
floors.
corner,
But I looked at the floors, of the two, these are floors, what, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and there's a similar, well, I think it's a similar layout in floors 2 and 3, only on those floors, it is two separate apartments. Because these apartments are labeled, the combined units that we're talking about are labeled, like E04, EF.
well, if
And
you
the one
look,
on E03, it's just, there's an E and an F separate.
if you look at the rent registration statements, and I'm referring to page 2,
Yeah.
look to all these 6-room apartments.
Right.
So I think they're probably gonna either convert it to 2 3-room apartments or a studio and,
Like 3 and
I
4.
think they said something about
They
that.
have
Right.
quite a few vacancies.
Does the board have, well, this is a question I have. If this person was to construct a brand-new building tomorrow, the board wouldn't have any say in the setting of the rent of the building, is that correct?
that's correct.
Because these are brand-new units being spawned from existing units, these would be considered brand-new, never before on the market units.
No.
So how can this board set precedent in setting rents for a property that's never been on the market?
They wouldn't be, brand new, like a new construction, because they're in an existing building. It's a renovation of an apartment. Even though they're creating additional units out of the apartment, it's still a renovation.
And this is with utilities included, is it?
Well,
These are,
I did look at it, and this statement didn't include our front page of the registration form, which discusses what type of services are provided. And that might be something we need to get attached to this rent registration statement, but the registration statement that I have that they had initially submitted that didn't identify it, according to the way we had asked them, did have services provided. Heat, yes. Cooking fuel, yes. Tenants electric, yes. Interior maintenance, yes. Exterior maintenance, yes. Air conditioning, yes. So it looks like that these apartments have the utilities included.
right.
Would that necessarily mean that the new apartments would have to have them included? No.
Yes, they would, because that is the services provided for all of the units in the building. That would be something that we would also recommend to them or advise them that they would need to keep it consistent with all the other units in the building. And I don't know how they would separate them anyway, because then they would have to have separate meters and
You'll have to
and
separate
do
the
other
whole
things,
building.
so
Yeah.
that would probably be a higher expense for them to do it. If you look at the rents, in those, they're looking at about $1,600 per apartment.
Well, I think that, I don't think that they should be given like a blank check just because they're separating one unit into two. I mean, and let's not forget, when the apartments are re-rented, they will get a 20% vacancy increase. So I guess my preference would be to divide up the square footage or apportion the square footage, and, they would get what they're getting now, but plus the 20%.
Well, I just like to bring to your attention, in
Yeah.
addition to what I've already laid out, if you look at the 3-bedroom or 3-room units,
Mhm.
they're all about $800 to $900.
Right.
So that'll give you some idea.
Yeah, but you're gonna
Well-
have more expense because you have 2 families cooking, you're gonna have the heat,
That's a
It's a
decision
little
that,
more.
that's a decision that, yeah, the property owner would have to make. But I'm just trying to lay it out so you could, have all the facts to make your determination.
And we don't really know why they want to do this, so my guess is that they're thinking it would be easier to rent the apartments more than, I don't know.
They might not do it,
Well-
it's just that they're considering it.
Mhm.
Because they have quite a few vacant, they have like 14 or 16 vacant.
And those vacants are 3 and 4.
Yeah,
They're not even the 6, so.
yeah.
I guess another question or option might be, again, to apportion the square footage, but then I guess the studio, which they would be doing the work in and adding things to, I'm wondering, perhaps that could be considered a substantial rehabilitation, and they would, basically get whatever they can for that one on when they first rent it.
I would propose a 950.
In that area, in that
In that
range.
area, 950,
Because most of them
1,000.
are 950. They're like 870.
Or you can just tell them to look at what they charge for, the 3-bedroom unit, 3-room units, and try to be consistent with that.
I think that all these rents that are in here are very, very consistent with fair market rentals in this area, with all utilities included. I don't think they're gonna be able, judging by, excuse me, judging by the amount of vacancies in this building, for the exact type of apartments that they're gonna put in here, I don't think they're gonna have any type of egregious rent increase from what is currently already in place. Most of the 3-bedroom unit, 3-room units in here, the highest price that I've seen so far is about $975. I can't see them really getting much more than that market rate.
They better all stay as they are.
They'd probably be better off economically, but then again, you know what, that's not for me to determine. I just don't think that it's a good idea for us to set a precedent by setting somebody else's rent in somebody else's building. For the 4-room units here, I see rents in the $1,200 to $1,275 range, with utilities included. Again, I don't feel that that's too far off the market in terms of what the market can actually bear. So again, even if they were to try getting, are they going to get more than $1,275 for a 4-room unit when they're getting $1,330 for a 6-room unit? $1,440 for a
We're talking
6-room
about
unit?
gas and electric included, that's pretty good.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that I don't think that these guys are going to fly off the wall and say, ask $2,000 for a 4-room unit. You know what I mean? And again, I think that because of the way that the market is in terms of rentals, I don't know if it's a good idea for the board to say, this is the number we're going to place on your unit. I think market forces will determine exactly what they get for it, and I think that they could figure that out already themselves based on the numbers that we see here. But
Yeah.
that's just my opinion.
So we need to make a suggestion though, they're waiting for that.
Well, do we need to suggest a number, or, I guess we
A
could,
cap,
but,
a cap.
Well, I You could take the approach by saying that you need to be consistent with the same amount of rooms that are in the building in that range. So if you have a 4-room unit or a 3-room unit, whatever that happens to be, you should be consistent with the rents that are being charged there. And, nothing more than what's on the high side as it is now.
Well, you have a four
Yeah, 'cause
room for 1,300.
1340.
And then you have one for 10 for 1,070.
Well,
1340.
there's 6 rooms in a unit. There's no 2-room units in the building at all right now. So if they decide on going 4-room and 2-room, then they would have to come. You can tell them they can set something and then come to get approval by the board after they set a rent.
Because there's other factors. I mean, when the apartment becomes empty, they're gonna take 1 into 2, and they're doing renovation, I mean, they can put up 15% for that, right?
Well, they
On
can-
each apartment, right?
They can come in as a substantial rehabilitation on the unit,
On the studio.
on the studio, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's the fairest, is like what I said before, that apportion the square footage and the, on the 1-bedroom apartment, apportion the square footage and the present rental. So, again, let's say the 1-bedroom was 60% of the space, and let's say the rent, off the top of my head, is, for the whole apartment is 1,500, so it would, well, of course, it's lower.
Well, the 1,600 is what they're charging
Okay,
about now.
well, or forget the exact numbers, but the percentage of, let's say, the percentage of the rent, according to the square footage, allocate the square footage, what percent and what percent, and then allocate the rent that way, and then in the 1-bedroom apartment, they could get the 20% vacancy increase, and in the studio, conceivably, they could apply for a substantial rehab and get whatever.
So something similar, like if they're charging 1,600 and they do a 1-bedroom and a studio, then they can charge, say, for example, 1,000 and then 600 for the studio, and then get their,
Right, that would be considered the existing rent, and then the 1,000 could go up, the 1,000 could go up to 1,200, and the 600 could go up to whatever they
Yeah.
could get if they make.
the only difficulty you have, they talk about 1-bedroom and studio apartments, but they don't tell you how many rooms are gonna be in each one of those.
Okay, but I was thinking the square footage rather than
Well,
the.
you can tell them to consider taking a square footage approach, sure.
These apartments have 2 bathrooms?
They'll each have their own bathroom, sure, they're required. to
No, I
do
mean,
that.
they have, right now, the big apartment has 2 bathrooms?
I don't know.
We don't know anything.
You know, if you had a little more information, for example, as to the number of rooms and in each apartment, you can go back to them. You don't have to make a decision right now. You go back to them and say, look, we want more information.
Didn't they gave us a plan of the apartments?
I didn't see it.
No?
I've never seen a plan.
No, there isn't.
Well, then I think they should come, somebody a representative should come and talk to us and see, and come with the square footage and what they plan to do and all that. And we should be able to ask questions. That's the only way, because we're guessing. I was thinking it was 2 1-bedroom. I realize now it's 1-bedroom and the studio. So, we don't know.
So if you're comfortable with it, then Ms. Campbell can always go back and say, the board would want some additional information, and Carol can tell them some of the things we discussed. You know, you needed to know square footage, number of rooms in each apartment, and then come in and give a little bit of a presentation before you can make a decision. If you're comfortable doing that, obviously that's a safe approach to take.
And if the utilities are included in the same manner. So, okay.
Is that the consensus of the board?
It's fine with me.
That's fine.
So, Ms. Campbell, you'll get back to them and let them know that they need, if they want formal opinion or whatever, they need to come before the board with what they're, we talked about.
And we had talked about talking to the construction department.
Well, obviously, whatever they do has to have the construction permits, you know.
Right, but is it possible? I mean, they can do that?
Well,
We can check with them.
they're only asking you about rent. They're not asking you whether or not they're allowed to do it.
What if we have all this trouble and then they go to the construction department, they say, no, you
They would
can't?
need to,
Because you need
Yes.
more parking spaces, you need a lot more other stuff, you know?
well, you might, Ms. Campbell could, as part of her letter, suggest that they consult with the building department, you know, first,
The parking.
to see if what they're looking to do would be permitted, and that you would want that information before you can consider it.
Because you will need more parking space.
There's a lot of vacant parking in the garage from here.
Yeah, but what if everybody
All of a sudden,
is, yeah, you can't go by that.
So I think that's a great idea, to ask them to talk to the construction bureau first. Anybody else have any other ideas or suggestions they can give to Ms. Campbell? Then I think we're done on this application.
Wonderful. All right. I guess that was new business. Is there any old business?
No old business.
No old business? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn
Adjourn
the
the meeting,
meeting.
yes.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.